Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. It's great to see so many happy faces here today. I would like to welcome you and quickly introduce the team, the Hull Venture Group and Sobis team that put together this event here. What you can tell from our tired faces, probably that we've been working a lot for you to put together these 2 days. And yeah, without further ado, I want to introduce the team because they are really awesome. And please don't talk to them if you look for team members because, well, they already taken. I want to start a venture with them. So come on, guys, come on up. So that's our awesome team. Ana Maria, Manuel, Anda, Valerie, Vera, Mo, Luigi, Joe, and Jess, and Gobi on this side, and our great mentor and advisor here, Mike, who's also going to be going to have a big role here for the 2 days. So, Mike, you want to kick off the event?
Yeah, if you're ready, absolutely. But first of all, I just want to compliment this team. The fact that you're all here on a Friday night, you're going to spend all day Saturday, they've done a remarkable job, so they deserve a round of applause, everybody. All right, cool. Thank you. So for those of you I haven't met, I'm Professor Mike. I've been teaching here for a couple of years, and I am really excited to be here tonight. And when I started teaching here in Toolbox, I challenged my 3 MBA cohorts that we needed to do a better job than last year, because last year we tried to get an entrepreneurial event off the ground, and it never really happened. And not only has this team created one entrepreneurial event, they're actually creating a series of entrepreneurial events, starting with tonight's boot camp and matchmaking event, through a pitch competition, and ultimately in early April, a global entrepreneurship workshop. So it's been a very well thought out, very coherent approach, and I'm excited for all of you, right? Many of you, when I asked you to introduce yourselves to me in class, when we first met in early September, you said you came here to Silicon Valley in San Francisco because you wanted to participate in the world's great innovation ecosystem. You are now here, and many of you are now in the process. It's been, for me, a 25-year journey. I love it. There's nothing more fun, more exciting than the process of entrepreneurship. And I'm excited for those of you who are taking this first step. Really awesome. So you're working on a dream. Some of you are working on a really big dream. I think 40 of you registered ideas, and you're going to pitch, and you're going to try to share your dream with others, right? That's a big part of this first event. Is you're going to try to put your dream out there into this community, and you're going to try to find other people that are inspired by and energized by your dream so that they come together and share that, okay? And although this is not from California, this is actually an ad that many of you may have been seeing a lot lately in the business press, The Economist. This is No Place to Dream Small. Happens to be an ad that New York State is running, because New York State, like every place in the world, is trying to replicate the Silicon Valley phenomena, okay? But this is where it's happening. So this is no place to dream small, all right? And so the whole mantra is you need to think big, but you've got to start small. And we're going to talk about some of the tools to do that, all right? And obviously the Silicon Valley approach is to grow fast. So you are in the most concentrated cluster geographically anywhere in the world of high-tech companies. Mobile companies, social companies, cloud companies, clean tech, biotech, social ventures, right? There's a remarkable ecosystem that has been evolving here since 1938, 1939, when Hewlett-Packard set up shop down the road in Palo Alto, okay? And one of the reasons you're all here is because you're sick of working in bureaucratic organizations that don't value what you have to say, that don't give you the opportunity to bring your heart and your brain to work, and you want to create your own reality, okay? And that's really what entrepreneurship is all about, okay? So the kind of people that I believe are great entrepreneurs are the people that look at the world and they don't complain about the problems. They don't bitch and moan about the way things should be. They actually come up with solutions. They say, why isn't it done this way? Well, maybe it's my job to do it this way, okay? And that's what makes it so exciting. I have a twin sister who is sort of the opposite. I'm the engineer, she's the poet. But at the same time, we're both very creative, right? Because the process of creating a new company, a new venture, is an incredibly satisfying creative process. And it begins with the idea, okay? And for all of you who are here, you're taking control of your own destiny, right? This is the great quote from the poem Invictus that Mandela read every day for the 27 years he was in captivity, right? And I think it's very relevant to what we're about to do today. So there's many, many ways to approach entrepreneurship. You know, one of the ways we do it, and this is a much more rare approach. This is the approach that Picasso brought, and his model is jobs where they see the world way ahead of anybody else. So in some of my classes early on in managerial skills, I showed a video of Steve Jobs right after he came out of the Xerox PARC labs, where he saw the graphical user interface, and he said in 10 seconds he realized it was the future of computing. He figured that out about 20 years before everybody else did, okay? Not many of us have that vision. It's unlikely any of us in this room could ever approximate the genius vision that Jobs had. Most of us put our pants on one leg at a time, okay? And we do it more like Chagall, okay? We sort of approach it in fits and starts. And that's why the lean startup model is such an important tool for you to understand. Because lean startup is all around iterating until you finally get it right, okay? And so there's many, many examples of people that have done this. This is just an entrepreneur I happened to mentor a while back out of Providence, Rhode Island, who had the audacity to dream of changing the way that kids did their chores and things that were actually good for them by creating sensors that would allow them to gamify brushing their teeth and taking out the trash and doing their homework. He slept in a sleeping bag for 3 months in an accelerator in Providence, Rhode Island. But when he finally came out to San Francisco to launch his company on stage, magic happened, and he wound up being given $500,000 in seed money before he walked off the stage after a 6-minute pitch. Now this guy paid his dues. This lovely green sweater, this incredibly stylish green sweater he's wearing, okay, has patches on the elbows, and it's very frayed at the bottom. Now his grandmother gave him money to buy a new sweater, but he didn't go buy a new sweater. His grandmother gave him money to replace the beat-up briefcase he had with duct tape, but he didn't go and buy a new briefcase. He bought sensors, okay, and he paid for software development talent because that's what he needed at that point in his trajectory of his startup. That's the mentality that is required. So for those of you who are jumping in, be aware of what you're jumping into. It is an emotional roller coaster. You've got awesome days and you've got horrendous days. Sometimes you've got a great morning and a horrible afternoon. That's what makes it so fun, okay? Things move really fast in Silicon Valley. I mean insanely fast. So you've got to be used to a certain clock speed, okay? And you've got to be comfortable with the fact that, you know, your startup doesn't fire you, the market fires you. The market will determine whether your startup is relevant and whether it deserves to live or die, okay? To me, that's what makes it most exciting. Because if you can find a problem and apply a solution to it, the market's going to say, let this company continue, we will continue to fund it, okay? The world is hypocritical. People say they want change until you give them the option to change. And then they start to slow down and hem and haw, Okay, so you've got to be very clear that anytime you were trying to bring a new world order to what you were doing, especially my social entrepreneurship friends in this corner of the room, there is going to be strong resistance to change. That is also a part of the fun, the challenge to overcome that, okay? And failure is only failure when you don't view it as a learning opportunity. Failure is learning until you quit, okay? And 99.9% of all startups have gone through multiple iterations before they finally figure it out, okay? One of the important things you have to think about as you go through your exercise for the next 36 hours is how you're going to be different and better than everybody else, right? It's an irrational human act to buy from a startup, okay? It's a lot easier to buy from the big, monolithic global brand. There's no risk. I'm not risking my career. I'm not risking my reputation. So to buy from a startup means you better have done it differently and better than anybody else. And so I'm going to challenge you to not accept the status quo, to keep pushing your thinking. And as the teammates come together and you bring different perspectives together, it's very healthy to challenge and say, I don't think that's enough. I think that we can already get these capabilities somewhere else. What do we need to do more than what we're saying right now? Okay? This is a long slide for those of you who are not native English speakers. But the point here, and there's a lot of wisdom in Dilbert, is that this is the big divide that many of you are trying to bridge. So a lot of you have these stickers on and you're looking for people that code, right? You want people that develop apps, okay? This is a classic discussion between a marketing person and a coder. And the coder is desperately looking for some level of clarity and vision about what they're supposed to do. And more often than not, the marketing person is plain too uninformed to be able to tell them, okay? That is not where you want to be this weekend, okay? You want to come in and have a very precise idea of the problem you're solving and how you're going to solve the problem. Unfortunately, this is a very common discussion, okay? Innovation and invention are not the same thing. So a lot of you struggled with, do I put my idea out in the community or not, okay? I think it's a very easy answer. Very easy. The idea in and of itself, while it may inspire you, without execution, without the discipline of making it happen, is of almost no value, okay? The important point is you need to bring a lot of different functional disciplines together. So I look at Manuel or I look at Samira and they want IT, they want finance, they want consulting, they want marketing, right? There's a need to bring together a lot of complementary functions because they're all a very important part of the success factor, okay? And execution is key. So you don't want a bunch of big dreamers on your team, okay? The best companies have a nice balance between huge vision and disciplined execution. And it's great to see all these different degree programs. So the fact that we have MIMs in the room, and we have MBAs, and we have MSCs, there's a lot of different legacy experience that you bring to these proceedings over the last couple of days. Some things that you should think about, right? I think many of you at least know what the lean startup is. And if I was to summarize the lean startup in one slide, it would be this, okay? You're going to constantly iterate and constantly try to understand what your customer needs from you. And you don't assume it, you test it. You build a prototype. So it's show me, don't tell me. So tomorrow you're going to walk out of here with a pitch, maybe a prototype, okay, a business model canvas, something tangible. But it doesn't matter what you think. It matters what the market thinks. And until you let your idea fly in the market, you simply don't know. And iteration after iteration will ensure that you will get it right. Second tool that you need to think about is something called product market fit. And what product market fit means very simply is I finally have gotten to a point where the market has validated for me that the solution that I have devised has enough validity, enough currency, that I can now begin to engage in discussions that are consistent. So when I message to Guillermo, or I message to Clemens, or I message to Jess, it's a consistent message. I'm not trying to make it up on the fly. It's a repeatable model that becomes scalable. The way it works in Silicon Valley is typically you do this in a very bootstrapped way, right? You get to product market fit with very small capital, and you move at the speed of light, lots of iterations. It's when you finally achieve product market fit that the business is ready to scale and ready to take on growth capital, okay? Another important tool that you will be using is the business model canvas. Again, this is a living, breathing template, and the important point is the mindset that you bring to it, where you're not going to have a lot of hard facts tomorrow. You're going to have a lot of hypotheses. You're going to have a lot of potential ways that the market might react. But you need to think of everything you're doing in each of these different 9 building blocks as nothing more than a hypothesis that you're going to go out and validate. Okay? Small startups do not have a lot of resources. Do not build stuff that's already done well out there. As Steve Jobs said, great artists steal shamelessly. If there's great open source code, if there's great open source hardware, if there is a great business model, by all means, bring it into your core and extend the value from there. Don't work on stuff that has already been done in a world-class way. It's a huge waste of time and resource, okay? Some of you have gone through our managerial skills course. Design thinking is an increasingly important part of anybody's toolkit, right? And what that basically means is we've got a lot of empathy. We're going to sit back and we're going to question every part of the process and understand whether it really deserves to continue or not, right? So another important tool that you should be thinking about as you go through this exercise, okay? Ultimately, you're looking for strategic clarity. You're looking into the market and trying to understand how you are distinct. And often that's going to come from the voice of the customer, okay? You can't speak to enough customers, right? In America, we have this joke, you can't be too rich or too thin. You can never have too much customer knowledge, right? You should always err on the side of going overboard to bring in customer knowledge. And yes, these are often technology-enabled companies, but don't fall into the trap where you fall in love with technology for technology's sake, okay? Increasingly, that is a losing strategy, okay? Some really quick trends, and I know some of you were at an event I did last night from the alumni, but for those of you who weren't, I'm going to blast through these, right? Software is eating the world. Software is permeating every part of our lives, okay? Look at the cars that you or your families drive and how much software is in those cars. Look at the appliances that you use at home, right? Software is everywhere. Mobile commerce is at the very beginning of a massive long-term trend. I don't know how I did that, but okay, cool. And even if these numbers are off by an order of magnitude, there's a lot of opportunity here to build some really interesting global businesses around mobile commerce. You hear a lot about big data. There are a lot of big companies playing in the big data space. Big data is important for mobile commerce. It's important for e-commerce. It's certainly important for pharmaceutical and drug discovery and biotech discovery. Huge trend, okay? The sharing economy, right? Airbnb being a great example of a company that is benefiting from the sharing economy. But we have these Twitter flats going up in San Francisco, these 500 square foot apartments, okay? You can't own a lot of stuff when you have a 500 square foot apartment, so you need to share. And so there's a huge opportunity, and in this room, your generation gets this, you're living this, okay? Educational technology, ed tech, everything that I knew growing up and the way I was educated is changing. Okay, the way you educate your kids will be like nothing that you can even imagine right now. I know many of you in the room, Manuel, for example, is going to share an ed tech business model that he brought with him to Hull, that he's very passionate about. This is a massive long-term trend, okay? The virtual workforce. Increasingly, people no longer work out of institutional structures. They're free agents. They work from their homes. They work as independent people, okay? And your ability to organize that for the world, there's a huge upside for that. Some things to be concerned about right now, just to be aware of what's going on in the Valley. B2C has lost favor. And so if you're in the B2C space, you've got to be really clear about the value that you're bringing. Right now, business-to-consumer companies that are trying to raise Series A venture capital are finding themselves shut out. There's a belief that about $1 billion of angel investment, I keep touching my, my screen here, there's about $1 billion of angel investment that's about to be written off, okay? So the backlash has begun, okay? If you rely on LinkedIn or Facebook as they try to monetize their relatively new public companies, you rely on them for data, companies are finding they're no longer having the collegial support that they've had in the past. So be very aware before you think about building an extension on LinkedIn or Facebook. Be very aware if you think you're going to build the great competitor to Kickstarter, okay? There's about 9,000 websites out there that claim that they're doing crowdfunding. And I'm not making that number up. There's 9,000 websites in the world that are trying to promote the notion of crowdfunding. I have a special place on my heart for social entrepreneurship. It's a huge global trend as people recognize that the old ways of solving problems through charity are not working effectively. And we've got a great social entrepreneurship program here at Holt. We've got almost all of my MBA and MSc students have been incredibly socially conscious. There's a huge opportunity to do good in the world, but recognize that you've got to also be able to keep these businesses sustained. I've said this often, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, okay? If you can't keep these organizations financially secure, you're not going to change the world. So I love it when I see MSEs and MBAs and MIMs come together to bring the best of all worlds, social consciousness, marketing skills, hard business skills, soft business skills. That's what's required to build a social venture. And finally, reverse innovation, okay? Looking at bottom of the pyramid opportunities and doing design thinking, looking at problems in emerging economies in India and China, understanding where needs are not met because the product is simply not affordable, designing backwards from a price point that is affordable, and then scaling from there. So these are some of the major trends, okay? So I've been in a Engineering Anonymous 12-step program for the last 30 years, okay? And I go to meetings all over the country, but I'm just addicted, and I'm only one of many, right? It is a very interesting choice. It's not a career, it's a lifestyle choice, okay? It's an incredibly exciting lifestyle choice. And I'm really excited to hear pitches and to see where you guys all wind up. And so all I'm going to say is, you know, just push yourselves this weekend, challenge yourselves. There's a lot more that you can do than you would ever imagine, all right? There's a lot of support around here to help you do it. So I wish you a great experience here at the boot camp. Thank you.